Welcome to Trig Word Problems. This is page 5 of Unit 7 notes. So here are some examples. It says a ladder 5 meters long is leaning against the side of the house and makes an angle of 65 degrees with the ground. So here I drew a beautiful picture for you guys. You guys can do the same thing, or it can just be a sketch, whatever you want to do. The important thing here is that you visually understand the length of the ladder is 5 meters and where the angle is, and then our missing information. So here we're talking about, this is just as any other problem, but we kind of have to set it up. So I'm looking at this angle, all right? And they're looking for the height of the house, so I'm going to call this X, and then they're also looking for how far is the foot of the ladder with the house? So, aka, how far is the ladder from the house? And I'm going to call that Y. Okay, so this is going to be X. I'm going to be solving for X. And then here, I'm going to be solving for Y. Okay, so looking at my angle, it's important that I understand that the angle is down here. And this is my opposite side. This is my hypotenuse. Okay, because it's creating this 90-degree angle here with the house when you put a ladder against it. And then this is my adjacent side. Okay, so still do everything the same. You're labeling your picture with OA and H, and you're circling your angle that you're talking about. Once you do that, it's a lot easier to decide, okay, what trig function am I going to use? Well, it depends on if we're solving for X or for Y first. So let's solve for X first. When it comes to X, I'm talking about O and I'm talking about H. So, as always, so, ka, toa. For O and H, that has to do with so here, or sine. So I'm going to take the sine of the angle, sine of 65 degrees, and it's going to equal the opposite over the hypotenuse. Well, the opposite is X, and my hypotenuse is 5. Okay, so I'm going to put this over 5 and over 1 so I can cross multiply. Right, and I'm going to cross multiply, and when I do so, I'm going to have sine of 65, or X equals, because X times 1 is just X, equals sine of 65 times 5. Okay, now I've shown this in many previous videos before, but you're going to go to Desmos and plug in sine of 65 times 5, make sure it's in radians, or you can use your calculator. When you do so, you should get 4.5 meters. Okay. And for the distance, now I'm looking at Y. So I'm looking at my adjacent side and my hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse has to do with ka, or cosine. So I'm going to take the cosine of my angle, 65, and I'm going to set up an equation where my adjacent side is over my hypotenuse, because that's what ka stands for. So Y over my hypotenuse, which is 5. Once again, I'm going to set up a proportion so I can cross multiply. So I'm going to put cosine of 65 over 1. Cross multiply, and I get Y equals, because Y times 1 is just Y, cosine of 65 times 5, and when I put that in radians into my calculator or into Desmos, you should get 2.1 meters. Okay? Okay, so coming down here to the example number 2, we're actually going to change this one up a little bit so it's not the same thing. So it says a wooden beam 24 feet long leans against a wall and makes an angle of 71 degrees. With the top of the wall is what I want you to change it to. How high up the wall does the beam reach? So let's draw a picture real quick. It doesn't have to be perfect, but a wooden beam leans up against the wall. So here's my wooden beam here, and it's 24 feet long. Okay, here's my wall. So that's giving me my hypotenuse right there. It makes an angle of 71 degrees with the top of the wall. So now instead of being down here with the ground, that it makes a difference, okay? So that's a very important piece of information when they're telling you where the angle is. Okay, so maybe make a little note to yourself. Where the angle is important information. Okay, in these type of problems. So that is 71 degrees there. And they want to know how high up the wall does the beam reach. So they want to know, we can call this X again, right? The height of the wall. And then they want to know how far away is the beam from the wall. So we can call this Y again, right? So I'm going to solve for X, and I'm going to solve for Y, which is the height and the distance again. Okay, so I'm going to do this just as I have this set up now. I can take this as any other problem that we've been working with. I'm going to circle my angle. I'm talking about this angle. This is my opposite side. This is my adjacent side. And this is my hypotenuse. Okay, so once again, I'm given my hypotenuse. I'm looking for my opposite and adjacent side. So I'm going to start with X, and that is my adjacent side. And I have my hypotenuse for SOHCAHTOA. Ha, get it? I said so. And okay. Just calling jokes for you. And since I have A, I'm looking for A, and I have hypotenuse, I'm going to use cosine. So I'm going to take cosine of the angle, 71, and I set it equal to my adjacent over my hypotenuse. Well, my adjacent is X, and my hypotenuse is 24. And if you need to write adjacent over hypotenuse, please do still, if you need to write that out. I can show you what I mean when we do the next one. So I'm going to put this over 1, and this is over 24, because that's my hypotenuse. Okay, I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to do cosine of 71 times 24 equals X, or X equals cosine of 71 times 24. And I'm going to plug that into decimals or into your calculator, and when you do so, you should get 22.7. If you're not getting that, then you're not in radians. Okay, so you got to make sure you're in radians. For Y, I'm looking for my opposite side. I'm given my hypotenuse, so I'm going to be dealing with or sine. Sine of 71. I know that's going to be my opposite over my hypotenuse. So maybe you need to write that out still in order for you to kind of remember that. Opposite over hypotenuse, okay, and then plug in the information. So I'm going to take sine of 71 equals, well, what is my opposite side? It's Y. And I'm going to put that over my hypotenuse, over 24, okay. Right, and I can put this over 1 as well, so I can cross multiply. And when I do so, I'm going to do Y equals the sine of 71 times 24. And once again, when we plug that into decimals, you should get 7.8 feet. Okay, you should never get negative numbers for these because they're distances. Right? Hope this helps. Have a great day.